Hello, beautiful, precious, conscious creators. Today, I want to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the Maui Fires. Now, there are a lot of people in the world experiencing trauma right now, but this particular situation hits home for me because Hawaii is a part of my heritage, and as a Hawaiian, it holds a very special place in my heart. In this video, I want to address the disheartening topic of whether this event was natural or nefarious. And stay with me till the end because I am going to talk about the good that will come from this for the land and the Hawaiian people, and how others who live there and were affected by this will benefit too. And of course, because we are all one, we all benefit. I want to preface this by saying this information that I share might not resonate with you, and it might. That's okay. The purpose of this video is to bring to light what I was shown and to uncover what 3D looks like and what it feels like. Now, what's most important here is that we see it for what it is, 3D. But we don't get caught up in it or stay in it or participate in it or lend our consciousness to it. We use this information to make a conscious choice to leave the old earth behind, to welcome in the new that is being birthed right now through other people making this conscious choice too, and using this awareness to guide us in how we live our lives and the choices we make moving forward, and from our hearts showing up for those who need compassion, love, and support through this all. Now, let's just jump right into it. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. What I was shown is that it was undoubtedly nefarious. It was not a natural occurrence. And I want to say that I haven't watched the news on this to follow what's been happening. I never really did. So what I'm going to share comes all from what I was shown by my own counsel of light, and what I was shown through my vision and what I heard through my clairaudience. Now, I'm not here to debate anyone because I'm incredibly clear on the information that I've received. It is my truth. I'm sharing my understanding of this, and you can do what you would like to with this information. Now, a couple of days after the fires, I just started crying. So I knew the fires were going on. I think a lot of people are not sure just how big of an event it was, or we're still trying to figure it all out. And I was too. But a couple of days after the fires, I just started crying, and crying for what of course happened to the people and the land from a place of love and compassion. But that then turned into anger. I became really angry. And it was at that point that I knew as a confirmation, this did not happen naturally. I was angry because there was a nefarious agenda at hand. That was my own inner wisdom and guidance confirming that for me. If it were a natural disaster, my tears would be from love and compassion. But because there was anger there, I knew immediately what had happened. And here's what I was shown. I was shown this clairvoyantly right here, where I could see some of the people involved, the conversations that happened, the action steps that led to the event, and also through my clairaudience, hear some of the things that were said. I couldn't make out the faces, but I could just see that there were people talking and how the conversations were building up to the actual event itself. I saw a lot of nervousness, and I felt it too, with those involved, about everything going off just as planned leading up to the event. I liken it to planning a surprise birthday party where there are a lot of people involved in moving pieces, and you just hoping that everything goes off unhitched, right? It's like all the pieces come together without or just as planned. And that's kind of what I saw happen here too, the nervousness building up, that everything goes off just as it's supposed to. I also saw that there were specialists or maybe scientists perhaps, that were brought in as a special task force, so to speak, to calculate like how quickly the fire could spread under certain conditions, or like the measuring of the probabilities under certain circumstances. So like under this circumstance, this is what would happen. Under that circumstance, this is what would happen. And excuse me, these specialists were brought in as a kind of like a special task force or special projects. And these special projects included how to direct fire with different weather patterns, things of that kind. All right, so I also saw that the lines of communication were tight and calculated. So the means by which those involved communicated, and also who communicated what to whom, and everything was very specific with the messaging, the platforms of communication used, who had access to what information. It's like there were levels in hierarchy of who had access to different pieces of information. And I want to say that many of the people involved were not given the full information of what was going to happen. Only a select few had the full story. So these folks were given high-level tasks without all of the information at hand. I also saw that these specialists or special task force people, so to speak, were made to sign like non-disclosure agreements, things like that, that would preclude them from being able to talk about this. And a lot of the people involved were really used as pawns and manipulated in this whole process and carrying out, what they were given to carry out, which manipulation is a very typical aspect of a third dimensional reality. So they were used to carry out certain pieces of the puzzle and without having all the information. So after this tragic event takes place, you have these people that were contributors to this happening, but they didn't realize it at the time and they start to put all the pieces of the puzzles together and realize their part in it. So you can imagine how that would feel. So there's a lot of guilt and shame that they are carrying with them. And on top of it all, that now their hands are tied, not being able to speak about it because they've signed these agreements. And so many of them are, what I was getting, really suffering in silence. And you could imagine how that would be. So everything was done at a very high level, very calculated, traces of conversations hidden, and so on. And everything was done to create chaos and confusion all the way around, between the people who took part in it but didn't realize it until after, to the people who were affected by it, the people who lived there that weren't affected by it, trying to figure out everything, right? Chaos in the aftermath to keep everybody unsure, in a state of shock and confusion. And I was shown that like government employees who are in positions to handle and respond to state emergencies like this, they aren't sure how things like the technology under these circumstances fell short, and how the protocols that were already in place to respond weren't taken. How none of the mechanisms already in place were used or triggered, and so now they're hearing the authorities talk about these things, and it's not making sense to them. It's like, oh, wait a second. These are the protocols in place for emergency situations just like this, but yet none of them were used. What's going on here? And these poor employees don't know what to say because it's not adding up. But imagine how afraid they are knowing this. Like, who do they talk to? Who do they tell? Who's who? And who's a trusted source? Am I putting myself in danger by speaking up? So one more thing that I was shown is that there are people that are a part of this who have money that are pretending to use their wealth for the benefit of the whole, but who are a part of the actual plan. They're disguising themselves as the good guy, but are far from it. And I think we all know the billionaires that hold thousands of acres of property on limited land. It's islands that we're talking about. And I mean, we have to stop and question that to begin with. How is that even possible? So it's all kind of a part of the illusion and the confusion of it all. You know, it causes confusion and people don't know who's who or who to believe. This person looks like the good guy because they're donating their money to assist, but they really aren't. You know, there's a lot of distortion playing out that needs to be sorted through. And, you know, they're the characters in the play, so to speak, portraying themselves to be the one way. They're like portraying themselves to be one way, but who are really another. So there's a lot going on here. And as you can see, this is the epitome of 3D. Fear is the foundation of everything here with everyone, right? Fear from the trauma of losing everything. Fear going into survival mode. I mean, it's the foundation of it all on so many different levels. And you can see all of the manipulation that has taken place and continues to, with the pawns that were used, to the people that were affected, to what the media is reporting on this, and the intentions behind it all. So everyone is in a very sensitive state. In typical 3D fashion, there are many layers, a lot of entanglement, manipulation, greed, power, control, and fear. So it's the perfect recipe for a 3D reality. Now, here's what I learned through my clairaudience. Here's what I heard. Excuse me. Those who were in on this at a higher level than the pawns, they too did not know all of the details. Again, there were select groups that did, but they were aware. They did not have all of the information, but they were aware there'd be like a major emergency or catastrophic event. However, they were made promises and made to feel important for their part in carrying things out. You know, this is all 3D too, playing into the ego, right? Like they were on the in. It's kind of like being with the in crowd in high school or something. You know, that would be, because of this, that would be promising for their careers, financially, their families, things like that. So here's what I heard they were told. They were told something along these lines. You're about to see something you've never imagined, but you'll be taken care of. So their intentions weren't honorable because they knew something bad would happen, but they wanted the benefits that came with it. And it all played into their egos of feeling included, being on the in, and feeling important, that they were chosen, you know, to like be given this information, to be a part of this big thing that, you know, they would benefit from. Now, I was also made aware of other conversations that went something like this: just follow orders and you'll be okay. Now, I know that there were outside forces of a lower consciousness that were a part of orchestrating this as well. And I did hear specifically the word Draco. So I also know that everything was calculated based on the energetics of things, you know, so the day that it happened, which is a very potent day of higher frequency energies, which was on the 8/8, Lionsgate portal, the time, everything was specific with when and how they carried this out, because they understand, these lower consciousness understand how to work on a metaphysical level. It's everything that we've, all the information that humanity was withheld from humanity, that kept us in a suppressed and oppressed state of being for many, many years, right? But they understand this, so they purposefully calculate things based on the energetics of it. So, let's talk now. Obviously, there's a lot of evil there, right? And a lot of unconsciousness that we've covered. But I want to take, the time to talk about the good that comes with this. Let's talk about the good that will come from this. It's always important to be aware of what's happening, because through awareness, we can create change, which is exactly what's happening in the world today. As humanity wakes up, we're questioning things. We're not taking things at face value. We don't just sit back and believe everything the media tells us or a certain professional tells us. How we're elevating is we're learning to ask questions, to question things, and then to go inside and see how it is we feel. What is it our own inner wisdom, our own guidance shares with us on these things? And that's how we form, our truth. So we never want to get stuck in the ugliness of it all. Everything holds a purpose. And for that reason, I want to end on a higher note. Okay, because that's important, Once we see the negativity, we go, okay, but we have to look at the bigger picture here. And the bigger picture that I was shown is that this is going to be a catalyst for the people of Hawaii, because they've been manipulated and taken advantage of for so long. Now, humanity, all of humanity has, but for the purpose of this video, I'm focusing in on the Hawaiians and the land. So, first, I can see all of the beautiful work that has been done on Maui energetically from light workers who have come together to bring in light to the island and the people. I know there's a lot of meditations that have happened, and just people on their own, clearing the land and bringing light and healing to the people. And so when I see Maui in my mind's eye, I see a beam of light there, which is reflective of all the beautiful work that has been done, right, to elevate that space. Now, I know many have gathered to assist the souls in crossing over as well. And I also know from what I was shown that many of those who have gone missing and who have passed in that process were rescued by interdimensional beings and brought to other dimensional existences, such that they wouldn't have to bear the wrath of that traumatic experience. They were kind of swooped up in love. All right, so that's beautiful. Now, one of the most powerful things I know will come from this is the emergence of a new aloha. The old aloha wasn't properly equipped for the third density because it assumed everyone was on a level playing field, so to speak, all coming from the same place of aloha. And because of that, it was actually used against the people in typical 3D fashion. So this new aloha that is being birthed now is a conscious aloha. It's one that dismantles 3D and reflects 5D. It is an aloha with sight to see truth. It's an aware aloha. It's an aloha connected to power. It comes with strength and is one that's courageous to step outside of its old comfort zone. It's an aloha that doesn't blindly accept. It is an aloha that requires transparency. It is an empowered aloha. It's aloha with a voice. It is aloha that's unified. It is an aloha that does not compromise itself. It is an aloha that takes action from a place of truth and awareness and power and courage. It is an aloha that steps up as soon as it sees any imbalances whatsoever. It is an aloha that is supported. It's an aloha that garners respect for the land and the people. It's an aloha that requires from visitors and tourists. That's right, visitors and tourists that come to this most beautiful sacred land. There are requirements of respect that come with it. And that's what this aloha requires. It is an aloha that doesn't veer away from its divine blueprint. It's an aloha that is supported by loving and compassionate hearts all over the world, and we're seeing that now. I want to conclude with this very special, powerful quote from King Kamehameha III. And it was adopted in 1959 by the state's motto, Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono. That is, the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. This is the turning point to returning to righteousness. This energy has been imprinted there. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. It is imprinted there in the land and the life and the people. So there's no escaping it. We may have gone through a period of unconsciousness, but there's no escaping it. Hawaii was blessed with that energy. That is the core of what it represents. And so it returns to that place once again. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.